Alright, so welcome to Photoshop 2019. So we're going to test out one of the new features here, which is the new ContentAware tool. So this is kind of like one of the biggest new additions to the program, so we're going to test it out, see how well it works compared to the old one. So I've got about 4 images and they progressively get more difficult for this. So what we're going to do is take the selection tool and just kind of select the area that we want to remove and then replace. So we're going to come up here to the Edit menu and then drop down to ContentAware Fill. So this brings up a whole bunch of new stuff. One is a preview window and one is kind of the info palette of what you can change and what you can do. So the first little button here is Show Sampling Area, and this is just kind of showing you the area that you're going to be sampling from, which is what we selected. So we have kind of a semi-opaque green. We can switch that color. So right now it's showing you the sampling area or the excluded area, which would be the inverted. In this case, we just want the sampling area. So our fill settings, we have color adaptation, and we can change that to a couple of different settings. So if one doesn't work well, we can change it to something else. We can also rotate the selection, so it would actually rotate this way or this way. You have scale, in which you can change the scale of the fill, and then you can mirror your fill, meaning it will mirror from one side to another. So we're going to turn both of those off. My favorite setting actually is this output, that you can actually output to a new layer, which is awesome. Anytime you can make a new layer in Photoshop, when you're doing non-destructive editing, that is definitely worth the effort and time. So we've got this, and we can see in the preview here, it looks like it's done a pretty good job, except for right here, it looks like it's kind of messing that little area up. So we're going to hit OK, and it is really fast. So the first thing I will say is that's crazy fast for ContentAware Fill. Now it did mess this little area up here, so I can go into this layer with just a simple clone stamp. You want to make sure all layers are selected, so it selects down through your image, and I'll just make my brush a little smaller, and we can easily just kind of clone that out. So that one worked pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it on that one. So we kind of hit OK. So the next one we're going to go to is the sheep. So we'll remove this little sheep guy right here. So I'm going to use the ellipse tool. I think hopefully that works. Alright, that works pretty good. We're a little close up there. We could use something a little bit different, or I can move it down a little bit. So we're going to replace the little sheep there. So we're going to go back up to Edit. Up, too far, ContentAware Fill. And it's going to give us a preview here, and bam. So one of the issues that ContentAware did before is usually when you used a big area with some texture behind it, it was kind of out of focus and fuzzy, and it didn't match up perfect. So you kind of had to go in with a clone stamp and usually clean that up. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And then I'm going to hit Command D to deselect, and you can see, yep, you can see the circle right here in this kind of out of focus fuzzy area. It did good in the center, but you can see where it did it. It's not a huge issue. You can always come in with the clone stamp and sort of clean that fuzziness up. But let's try a different setting. So this is one of the another new feature in Photoshop is to go back in time, you used to have to hit Command Option Z. Now it's just Command Z. They've kind of flip-flopped the keys. So we're just going to hit Command Z till we get back there. We'll go to Edit, ContentAware Fill, and let's try High. And it looks like it's still fuzzy, very high. So it's getting worse. So I think default is probably going to be the best option. Let's try none. Ooh. Let's go OK. Hit Command D. I think that actually worked better. It has less of the it's still got the ring around it, but it has less of the out of focus areas. So in that case, the none worked pretty good. It's still giving us the edge, but it's going to be easier to clean up. Alright, so let's go to an even harder one. So we've got this buggy, so I'm going to use the lasso tool this time, and I'm on a feather of 0. And I want to see how well it will actually remove this from this image. We're going to go ahead and circle this. Come up to Edit, ContentAware Fill. We'll slide this over so you can see. So it's showing you the area that it's using. So we want to change this. We're at default. It's kind of warping that a little bit, which is weird. But the fill looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and try high. That's not helping. Let's try none. This preview is actually really helpful. I like this a lot. I'll go back to default. Boy, that's doing some weird stuff. So go ahead. I'm going to hit OK, and we'll just kind of come into this image and look at it. So I'm going to hit Command D to deselect it and just zoom in. So it did a pretty good job. It kind of warped this here. I can straighten that out with the clone tool. So that's another thing I can just kind of go. I'm going to make my clone tool a little bit harder. And I can just kind of come in here with that and then straighten that horizon out a little bit with that clone tool. Now I can also clean up the areas here. So the question is, it's picking up a shadow here, and obviously the grass is growing in. So this is something where the clone stamp tool is going to help as well. You're going to clone this and then start lining this back up. And you want to, I'm making a new selection every time I do this, just so it doesn't look like it's totally fake and repeating itself. You're going to see it a little bit. So you can see I kind of messed up that. I need to keep that black the same. And then we'll come in here and line this one up. Now, I've still got this shadow. I might come and clone this way with this. And we'll zoom out. So is it perfect? No. There's some little things right here, kind of right here, little imperfections. But overall, it's a little soft and fuzzy. This is something I can fix. I might try the patch tool to kind of get some detail back in this. It removed it. It was a difficult one. However, when I ran the tool, it ran really fast. It just was a difficult thing. So I would say it did overall a pretty good job on that. So let's go out here and come to the swan. So this is going to be difficult. When you do Content Aware, it reads the surrounding areas, like what the texture and detail is, and then it tries to fill it in. So my guess is we're going to get a lot of this green stuff here, and it's going to kind of ruin that flow that we have. But, you know, you never know till you try. So we'll just kind of go in here, make a selection around the swan, go up to ContentAware Fill, see what it does. That's funny because it's picking up the reflection, but it actually did a pretty good job of getting some water in there. Let's try to rotate it and see what happens. Still working. So that kind of brought that out too much, but you can see how it's kind of twisting that. I think just the basic one works pretty good. Let's try high, see what high does. It's getting more detail in, but kind of the wrong area. Let's try none. That worked pretty good as well. Let me go back to default. I think that's the best. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And let's turn this off and on. So my issue here is it's picking up the reflection. So this is something that we can come in here and kind of clone out next. But it did a pretty good job of removing that area. There's some soft spots right in here. It actually kept some of the water. So this is something that we could easily kind of clone or patch out. So I'll just do the patch tool this time. We'll say, hey, we want to remove this with this. We can do that. We can do it on its own layer. We just need to sample all layers. My mistake. So we can just come over here and say that to that. So it got some more water. It's got a weird texture there. And then we could come in here and remove that. So I'd say altogether it's very fast and it works better than the old ContentAware tool. But is it perfect yet? No, nowhere close. So you still have sort of the same issues with kind of the fuzziness around the selection. That's not a huge deal. It's pretty easy to clean up. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below, and don't forget to subscribe.